Today I'm going to be going over the Unit 1 formative assessment. This is our second assessment, and it's on percents and dimensional analysis. So the first question, it says use a ratio table to find 13% of 220. So what I want to do is I need to figure out what my part and whole is out of the 13%. Well, I know 13% is 13 out of 100. Every percent is out of 100. So I need to put, so my part is my 13. $220. So I want my 220 to be my whole. So I put 220 there. I'm then going to find different parts that add up to 220. So I'm going to break up my 220 into 200 plus 20. So if I can find the whole is 200, and I find the percent for that, and then the percent for 20, then I can add those together to find my part for my 220. So I'm going to go ahead and put 200 in here and 20. So let's go ahead and now we have to determine how do we get from 100 to 200. Well, I multiply by 2. So whatever we do to the bottom, we need to keep the same rate, same ratio. So I multiply by 2. So 13 times 2 is 26. Then I'm going to go to the next one. And the easiest way, I think, is going actually from 200 to 20. You can go from 100 to 20 by dividing by 5. But in this case, we're just going to divide by 10. And dividing by 10 is pretty easy. So when you do 26 divided by 10, you just move the decimal over 2, and then you get 2.6. The last thing that you need to do now is you have to get to 220. So if I add 20 and 200 together, I would get 220. So if I add my wholes together, then I can add my parts. And when I add 26 plus 2.6, I get 28.6. So that means 13% of 220 is 28.6. And that would be my final answer for that. Let's go on to question 2. So for question 2, it says, use a tape diagram to find 30% of 200. Well, I know 200 is my whole. So I'm going to put my whole right here. And I know that my whole is also 100%. And here I'd have 0%. And this would be 0. So I know I have to get 30%. So how could I divide my hundreds up? So you can divide your hundreds by skip counting by 2s. You could do it by 1s, but you really don't want to divide into 100 pieces. You can do it by 5s. You can do it by 10s. You can divide 100% by 20s, right? You can skip count by 20s. You can do it by 25%. But however, if you skip counted by 20s, 20, 40, right? You're skipping that 30%. Same thing with 25%. If you go 25% and then 50%, you're skipping that 30%. So the best thing that we can do is use our 10%. So I'm going to go ahead and divide it by 10% each one. So this would be 10%. So I divided them by 10% each. So now what I need to do is figure out how much 30% is worth. Well, I know that I have 10 groups. So if I count this, so I have 10 groups, and the total is 200. So if I take that to my whole and I divide it by however many groups, so this is the number of groups, that will tell me what each part of the tape would be. So 200 divided by 10 is 20. So I'm going to go ahead and put each one for 20. So what this means is that 10% is 20, right? It's worth 20. So if I had 30% of them, how much would that be? Well, looking at my 30% here, I have 3 groups of 20, which is 60. So 30% of 200 is 60, and that would be my answer. Make sure that you are showing your work. You have to have that tape diagram in order to show that you are communicating clearly. All right, let's go to number 3. It says, if 70% of a number is worth 469, use a double number line to find the total amount. Well, 70% is 469. So I'm going to go ahead and put 70% on my percent side. Total amount would be here, but I can't go from 70% to 100% easily. So I'm going to scale down my 70%, figure out a different percentage, and then scale back up. Okay, just like before, you need to think about the number that you're scaling to. So the best number to scale to would be probably 10%. So I can go from 70% to 10% by dividing by 7. So if I divide by 7 on the top, you do the same thing on the bottom. So 469 divided by 7 is 67. And then I still have to get to 100%. So from 10, I have to get from 10% to 100. And that is 100. So then I would multiply 67 times 10, and that's 670. So that means that my whole is 670. All right, 2 more questions left. This is question 4. What you want to do is see what it's asking. So it says we want to use dimensional analysis to find the amount of gallons in 23 quarts. So this 23 quarts is where we start. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and write 23 quarts. Then I want to use dimensional analysis, so I'm going to multiply by, this is your conversion. We get this information from our table that will be provided. So I want to get rid of quarts, so that means I need to put quarts on the bottom. So let's look at our conversion chart, and we're trying to get gallons. So if we look at our conversion chart, I see quarts right here, and I see quarts here. Don't see any quarts here and any quarts here. So let's see which one would work. Do we want quarts to pints, or do we want quarts to gallons? Well, we want quarts to gallons, so we're going to use this conversion. So I know that there's 4 quarts. So whatever you start with, you need to make sure that your unit goes on the bottom so we can cross them off. And then we know 4 quarts equals, and then 1 gallon, so you put that on the top, so 1 gallon. Now you can cross off your units of the quarts, and you multiply across. So remember, this is like a whole number, or over 1, right? So then you multiply the top numbers together. So 23 times 1 is just 23, and you have gallons. And then you have 1 times 4, which is 4. And that equals 5 3/4. Well, how did I get that gallons? Well, what you could do off to the side, this just means 23 divided by 4. So what I'm doing is I'm doing this in my head. How many times does 5 go into 23? 4 times. That's my, sorry, I did that wrong. How many times does 4 go into 23? 5 times. So 4 times 5 is 20. I write it down. I'm left with 3. This leftover here is your remainder, and your remainder is part of your fraction. So I have 3, and then whatever you are dividing by, fourths. So that's how I got 5 3/4. Another answer you could possibly put is 5.75 gallons. The better one would be using your fractions. Okay, so you could put just 23 divided by 4 in your calculator and you would get the 5.75 gallons. Let's go on to question 5. All right, so for question 5, it's a 2-step one. So we start with 350 inches and we need to get it into yards. So I'm going to go ahead and put 350 inches, and I'm going to change my inches. The only inches that I have is to change it into feet. So it doesn't give me into yards quite yet. So I have to put my inches on the bottom. And I know that there are 12 inches in 1 foot. It also shows me here on my chart. Next, I have to look for my next conversion. So I see a yard here, but I'm not getting it from meters. I have feet and yards. I know that there are 3 feet in 1 yard. So right now, I am in feet, and I want to get rid of my feet, so I put it on the bottom to cancel my feet and will cancel out. And I want yards. So I'm going to put there are 3 feet in 1 yard. Now I'm going to go ahead and just multiply, actually cross off my units. So there's inches here, and then I have my feet, and then I can cross those off. So now go ahead and multiply the top. So 350 is the only number I have on top, and then 12 times 3. And then my units that I have only left over is my yards, so I'm going to put yards. So 12 times 3 is 36. So I have 350 divided by 36 yards. Well, that doesn't look so good. So I need to simplify this. So I'm going to go ahead and do my long division off to the side. You can also use a calculator. So 36 goes into 350 9 times. So when I multiply 36 times 9, that's 324. And when you subtract, this is 26. So then this would be my leftover, right? My remainder. So I have 26 as my remainder out of 36. So that would be my denominator. And then I can simplify that. So I have 9 and 26, 36. And I can simplify that by dividing by 2 on the top and bottom. So then my whole number stays the same. 26 divided by 2 is 13. And 36 divided by 2 is 18. So then I have 9 and 13/18 yards. If I put in, just into my calculator, 350 divided by 36, I would get this answer, 9.7222, and it repeats. So you could put 9.72 if it's repeating. We use the little bar as a bar notation, and you would say yards. This would be the best answer. All right, that's the end. Just remember that we are grading you on communicating, okay? So you need to be communicating through coherent lines of reasoning, using different strategies that we've taught you. Make sure that your organization is clear and logical. So if we are not seeing work is not organized. That means you have work, but it's not organized. But if you don't have work, that means that there's no evidence of it, and that would be a 0. So make sure that you are showing your work clearly. Good luck on your summative.